Thank you for joining the Word Traction pod for the day. And this is Anthropic. This is Public First and Anthropic. One of the many things I appreciate about how Anthropic is conducting themselves, as opposed to your boy Sam at OpenAI and some of the other bunch of, of course, there are a bunch of very quixotic characters, because these are baby geniuses. These are extraordinarily intelligent people, and even Elon Musk, who we've all come to know and hate a little bit more every day after the Doge shit, the 27 kids, the cars that either spontaneously combust or that your fellow citizens help along the way, which is also great entertainment. Not advocating any violence, because this is, of course, a non-violent podcast. But Anthropic, two PACs. One that was actually started by two retired reps who Anthropic helped them with about $20 million in seed money, and then there's Anthropic, which is Anthropic's own employee-funded political action committee that will advocate for responsible education, safety procedures, responsibility, going back to, Dario's ongoing fight with your boy DJT and his Bible thumping acolyte Pastor Pete Hegseth. We know that there are a couple of different perspectives on AI. There is the excuse the expression, balls to the wall. We want to go really, really fast. And what they always say, as sort of the subheading, is we don't want to let the Chinese get ahead of us. Of course, in this wonderful world we're living in now, we have Donald Trump giving the Chinese a leg up on the horse by making the most advanced chips available to them, or the A- chips, but in quantities sufficient to hit their goals, and the most sophisticated chips, the most sought after ones, which some effing idiot decided it would be a good idea to sell it to UAE, who just turn around and give them to the Chinese in any case. So because we have some real deep thinkers in the White House right now, so we're jacking Vladimir Putin with one hand and helping Xi Jinping with the other, while spouting rhetoric about no foreign wars, and we're America first, and we're focused. For a supposed America first president, Donald Trump, which he's not. He says a lot of things, but you have to look at what he does. You have to, like no other president in history, you need to truly judge him by his actions, because he lies all the time. Right? And we know about the additional leverage that Vladimir Putin has on Trump, and Trump's fear of Xi Jinping. So all of those dynamics and a diminishing 79 and one half year old man who hasn't taken very good care of himself. I don't wish, I do not wish bad health on Donald J. Trump. That would be, that would make me as big as a shithead as he is. You know, that I would not be less, I don't want to be less than just because we're dealing with a corrupt and corrosive administration. We're dealing with people in government that don't belong to be in government, but that shouldn't make us less than. That's kind of part of the downside when constantly fighting against the negativity and some would say evil. If you watch ICE and Border Patrol and all of just what they do, not what they say, you know, Pamela Joe Bondi doing her exorcist routine in the Senate chambers and things like that. That's not evil. That's stupid. And it's magnified by these are people that are entrusted with a great deal of power and they abuse it in order to intimidate citizens, the people that pay that fund their paychecks, the people that they're supposed to be representing. And then the way that Donald Trump and his family thank, the nation that is put them into office is to steal money from them. So, these are just Donnie from Queens doing Donnie from Queens shit, even though he likes to dress it up in gold leaf, gold plate, and whatever. He's just a dick from Queens, and always has been, and always will be until he goes to meet whichever maker is receiving him on the other side. But I'm grateful for Dario at Anthropic because in an ordinary world, the U.S. government would be taking a more central role in the AI rollout because there are substantial risks. We all know about white collar jobs, manufacturing jobs, all the jobs that are going to be supplanted by technology over not tomorrow. I agree that there's a little bit too much doom and gloom, and this will be a part of my what should be my normal Saturday show. This we're doing Anthropic instead because they just seem to be center to all of the important things that are going on in our world, other than Iran, Cuba, whatever that turns out to be. We're not really not sure yet. We know that it won't be above board. We know that there won't be any transparency, and we know that it won't end up well for the Cuban people. But we can only hope for relatively limited loss of life, and that's all we can hope for because we don't have. I often give Marco Rubio creds. I guess it's comparative because I'm measuring him, and you don't want to measure Rubio against anybody too tall, but I'm measuring him against the lunatics like Hegseth and others, Kristi Noem, R.I.P. So Marco. I do that frequently because I had and have a very good friend named Mario Rubio. So close in that neighborhood. So excuse me. But Marco seems like one of the adults in the room because he was a U.S. Senator. Not that the U.S. Senate is covering themselves in glory right now. John Thune, my dear John letter from yesterday. I'm looking at you, cowboy. Do better, do much better, do better quickly, like immediately. Think about your grandkids, Epstein. You know, talk about it, and if you're the man that you hold yourself out to be, talk about it tomorrow at church with your priest, and tell him how you're standing up for all that's good in America, all that's good in amongst all humans, regardless of race, color, and creed, and how you're being a good Christian, John Thune. Easter matters, does to some people. So, you know, why don't you take the opportunity to get your shit right with the maker, the assistant, and the butler, whomever you whatever your team is. Why don't you try to get yourself right? Because right now, the way that it's going now, John, it's not good. It's not good. So, in any case, that was yesterday. This is today. And yeah, so Dario, Anthropic, what they're doing is they're being the adults in the room. And it's a delicate balance because if you think, neither you nor I, perhaps, are tech geniuses. I mean, I know about me. I don't want to speak for you. But Dario has to wear these different hats. He knows the risks. He doesn't know all the risks because nobody knows. This is experimental. This is first blush. This is truly novel. Right? So, as you know, Anthropic had, as part of their mission statement, that they would hold back from doing any experimental releases until all the safety protocols had been followed before any release. So I'm not reading anything. I'm not quoting anything. They, in their mission statement, it was just they struck a note of caution that the other companies didn't. And a few months ago, Dario came out very transparently and said, we can't stick with that anymore because the risk of all the other competitors jumping so far ahead because everything is moving so quickly, all we can say is that we're going to be conducting ourselves responsibly. And for some reason, I haven't had dinner with the gentleman. I don't know him personally, but from all we can do is what we've read, what we study, who has spoken for him, people of good faith that have spoken for Dario and about Dario, it gives me the impression that he's a businessman. I'm not discounting that. But of all of the other contenders, I mean, when you put, Sam Altman and Elon Musk, and then, whatever, Zuckerberg not playing at the same speed in the same space. But I don't want any of them over Dario right now. It seems like he's taking the responsibility seriously. And think about the impossible position that he's in because of the government stance, which is no, we're not putting guardrails, we're not putting governors, we're not putting any restraints. We're going to allow all of the people laying on the White House lawn, all of the people at Trump's coronation, to just go as fast as they want because they're going to put some money in my account, and let's live dangerously. I mean, that's, let's have some fun. Now, people are going to get hurt, of course, because this is a wonderful and extraordinarily dangerous technology. If you think about the implications just from autonomous weapons, that could end badly and will, hopefully in a smaller scale. How can we be 100% assured that these wonderful toys that these nice girls and boys build aren't going to make some decisions independent of the people that design them? I'm not comfortable in that hope or assertion myself at all. Again, I am not I am not a technical genius. I am not a computer scientist. I know what I study, and I know what I read, and I know what the people that are the experts say. But even the experts are unsure. Which makes it an exciting time, but tempered by intelligence, humility, a word that I've been repeating a lot because there is zero of it in our government. So again, it's kind of like little Marco. What did I say? I was doing something on, I don't know if it was on ChatGPT, some platform, and I said Marco, and the AI put little in front of it like a spelling correction, which is freaking hilarious. That even the AI has trained itself to know who little Marco is, which just gave me a shiver of delight. So here's our guy. Here's our man on a white horse, who's going to while he's growing a company that's valued. I think they got a valuation of about 20 billion, and it's going to explode in a good direction from here because of the funding round that Sam Altman just had last week. I think that was $122 billion. Right? So that means Anthropic is that $20 billion based on revenue projections is going to be 5x that in about 5 minutes. And all of them, many of them, there's going to be winners and losers. It's still a shame, and I've maybe harped on this a little bit too much, but that our government, meaning Trump and Hegseth, should choose petulance and grievance over just good business, and not arm our troops and our warfighters and our intelligence teams with the best tools available, meaning Anthropic. And they're using it right now while they're pissing and moaning about it and talking about, saber rattling. But why not make sure that you have the best tools? Because you know that when we're facing up against the Chinese, they're not bringing the B team. I'm not suggesting that we're going to be in armed conflict with the Chinese, because I'm convinced beyond all reasonable doubt that if something blew up in Taiwan, that we're not going to be there in the same way that we're not there for the Ukrainians. We just abandon our responsibility. And also the very useful thought experiment around our NATO friends to the north. What kind of commute is it from the Russian border into Latvia, you know, the Baltic states, the Nordic countries. Putin could be there with a sled team or a dirt bike in about 5 minutes in a lot of different directions, because there are a lot of very close or contiguous lands there with big open plains. We have the the Finns and the Norwegians, and they know the risks that are across the border and or close by, posed by Putin, and he's a legitimate nuclear power. But is that the fight that he wants to have for a Nordic country or a Baltic state? I don't know. I think perhaps he thinks he has bigger fish to fry, and while you're busy with a war, running your own country badly right now, Russia, essentially making all the executive decisions for the United States, trying to run Hungarian elections, which is now how many days away? That is a week away. Hungarian elections. More consequential German state elections coming up in the next few months. And that blinking beacon of the French elections next year. And then there's 10 other ones that I'm not mentioning, just because there's this is just a single podcast. But it's a lot, and he's a busy guy, and it's easy to have fun about Vladimir Putin, knowing that he's a trained killer, and he is also somebody that will impose his will on the elections and the populace of any country he sees fit to do so, any way he can get an advantage, and any way he can fulfill his dream of having the Russian Empire something like it once was, which includes, for him, it includes all of Ukraine. It isn't just, it ain't just Crimea anymore. Donbass plus. And we have people in Washington who are afraid enough of what Donald Trump could do to them by turning his angry mobs / primarying them, taking away their power, or very real threats. It just feels like it's about time that it's John Thune time. It's a wind gust, so I hope it isn't. If I didn't mention, it's in the 30s again, which is a northern Massachusetts reminder that until it's summer, it ain't summer. So, govern yourself accordingly. That Putin is a risk. The latest polls, what I was reading this afternoon, that Hungary, that the opposition party is strength, that they're holding their lead, that the lead, again, polls unreliable. What was 14 points 3 months ago narrowed to 9 points recently, and an average of reliable sources would have the opposition scoring back in double digits, 12%, 13, 14. I just, in the back of my mind, though, if Putin, who is an expert at this kind of thing, saw fit to send not a guy, but teams of agitators and intelligence officers into Hungary to set up shop, buy beer, order pizza, stay for the long haul through the elections. I just think that they are they have so much skill, and they're supported by such tremendous tech teams back home that he's going to be able to influence it uh, tremendously right at the end of the show. So again, I'm pro democracy, but I'm also a realist. And then, of course, when Orban came into office, he came to power when he hit his stride. It was about 10 years into Putin's reign, and he was essentially, as we talked about, Viktor Orban in Hungary, came up in the grew up as a boy under the thumb of the communists. So he was anti-communist, vehemently anti-communist when he began his political career. It's getting a little cold, so I'm talking funny. Excuse me. But somehow, he said with quotes, somehow he shifted a little bit towards to become more sympathetic with Putin. So that cost a few $1 million, whatever, or kidnapped a daughter, whatever it was. Putin has ways of getting shit done. All of a sudden, Orban is fully on the Putin team, and of course, we have this nice gentleman, Peter Magyar, the opposition leader, who, if Orban goes down in the elections, is Peter himself susceptible to influence from Putin and other sources like that? We don't know. That's one step ahead that we need to be focused on the now, and just hope that we knock Orban out, because then, I was watching a rebroadcast of Ursula von der Leyen's speech, where at the end she had to say, referring to Orban as the guy that didn't keep his word. Orban he's been a buzzkill in the EU. The one dissenting vote, but he has power with that, and that he sold his soul and his vote to Vladimir Putin. And I know that Ursula would be happy to see old Victor kicked to the curb on the 12th of this month. So, in any case, so we'll one final salute, and I wish there was something better than water in here. Saturday night, cold water. How about that? What kind of world is this? So, Dario, the only way this is going, looking at the period of time between now and the day that Trump leaves office, and we have more responsible leadership in the White House, we need more than Dario. The only way to make it work really is for Dario to pull in his brothers and sisters in arms, and he's going, by forming these two committees. He put in the seed money of $20 million on the first one, which is run by the two retired former legislators, and then he has the Anthropic, which is his company, his employees fund, that they donate to it, limit of $5,000 per employee, and that will fund and support candidates that are for responsible AI management, development, safety, etc. And both of those funds are supposed to support, bipartisan support candidates, regardless of party, that are going to be responsible players in AI, because there are real risks to our health, our safety, um, our employment, and in all other areas, because it is now and will increasingly be in every aspect of our life. And and if you're a late adopter, then get early. It better, or, Yogi Berra, it's getting late early. If you're not in now, then it's getting late early. So get yourself. There are plenty of resources out there. I wouldn't recommend the one offered by your government here in the United States. It's an overview at best, and they probably sell your data back to Palantir. But there are resources. If you are a late adopter and you don't know where to go, I would contact your local community college and find out what courses they have. Look on MIT.com if you have a few bucks to spend. There are lots of resources to get if not if you don't have enough money to get a leg over, you can at least maybe get a leg up and get started. But enough of that. Yeah, let's look appreciatively at what Dario's doing. Hope that his brothers will follow, brothers and sisters in the industry will, because Trump won't make a stand and the U.S. government won't do shit that means anything until Trump's gone. So the industry needs to be the cop. It really should be a governmental function to set it up in a way where it can't be kneecapped every 4 years. It has to be a little bit more, with a little bit more metal in the program. We need a little bit more resilience than something that can be swept away every election cycle. But it's this 2 years and 8 months or 9 months, whatever we have left of Trump 2.0. A shit ton is going to happen just in that period of time. So we need those leaders like Dario and Sam and in Elon and a bunch of the other guys to just step up and say, you know what, Donald, thank you. You're great. You're a good host. Nice ballroom. Loved your wife's movie, whatever. But we're going to agree on certain controls that we will all abide by. So fuck the Pentagon if they're getting peeved about not being able to kill people with a video game more quickly. We're going to do this ourselves. And the other partner in the battle is empowering the state's attorneys general. Rob Bonta, there are people that are very engaged. They're suing right now, these companies, as soon as they step out of line. And, these like, well, we did just fine when we were, it was the internet. This is just, it's just doing it again. Yeah. You're killing kids. You are choosing revenue over the safety of our children, if you're talking about Zuckerberg and the other companies, because the money-making opportunity is too enticing to them to behave responsibly. So, in any case, that's enough for tonight. It's getting cold. Hope you guys are staying warm and well and having a real adult beverage and not freaking ice water, which is getting colder by the minute. Wishing you well. Maybe do something tomorrow. May take the day off tomorrow, Sunday. But as you've come to learn, it's hard for me to keep my fucking mouth shut for too long. So there's that, and my condolences, and kindly share and restack and do all that stuff. And thank you and have a beautiful night. Thanks.